Hey everyone, welcome to Easy Street. We're broadcasting from the heart of Lad City. If you are watching over on YouTube, appreciate you hanging out and watching there. You can also head over to the Lad City Discord by typing in ladz.city in any browser. Over in the Discord, we have a lot of fun. There's a lot of content. We cover, NFTs, DeFi, the metaverse, gaming, the markets. You can level up and get access to super top secret content. There's giveaways, drops during the shows. So make sure you come over and join the lads here in Lad City. Join the tribe. Appreciate you both out there in the metaverse or watching on the YouTube, and those here a little deeper in it in the Discord here in Lad City. Have a really great guest tonight who's been in the space a long time. I'm really excited to hang out and talk with Second Realm. So welcome to Easy Street.
Oh, thanks for having me. I forgot to unmute.
All good. Pleasure to have you here. We're getting those, little audio problems taken care of right at the beginning, which Discord is, pretty famous for. But yeah, absolutely stoked. We've both been tinkering around the space for a pretty good while, and run across your work and followed what you've been doing for quite a while. You've been doing some, groundbreaking stuff and pushing boundaries. Early and vocal in trash art movement as well. Before we kind of dive into some of the details about what you've been doing and what you're working on, I always find it really kind of intriguing, but also kind of mind-opening to hear from different people who are in the space kind of where they found their passion for art, and then a little bit of how that kind of led them into the crypto art and NFT space. So if you want to give us a little background, I think that's always a really great way to start the show.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll try to be as pithy and informative as possible, but I tend to get a little bit long-winded, so feel free to cut me off. Honestly, I've always been into art. I don't think I never had a choice. It was something I just did as a kid. I've always been drawing. I've been drawn to being to the arts. I've always Milton Glaser kind of summed it up pretty appropriately. The way in which I engage with the world is through drawing. As an introvert, it became the space where I could share my frustrations with the world because I was different, or I felt different. And art became kind of like baseball for me as well, became safe spaces. So it was just born in me, to be perfectly honest with you. But it took, let's see, I'm 43 years old, so I spent about the last 20 years trying to find my career path. So it took about that time to get back to art. And it came at a time when I had severely burnt out from working in tech and went through a pretty awful mental breakdown for about 6 months. And art saved my life in that way. And what happened was I'd already been investing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and Chainlink and all that kind of good fun actively since 2017, but I had been informed since about 2011. At one point, I mined, when you could mine on a desktop, on a laptop, I mined some tokens, not realizing what I was doing, and eventually threw that thing out because it was just internet funny money at the time. It didn't mean anything. And so that's sort of a little bit about my path. So really what happened is I typed in one day in the middle of recovery from the mental breakdown while I was, anonymously trolling the Chainlink message boards, just crypto and art on Twitter, and I found Josie and Matt and Trevor Jones, Matt Kane, Josie Bellini, Xcopy, Coldy, Robness, Max Osiris. I found all of these people doing this NFT thing, and I didn't know what NFT meant, but crypto and art was another hashtag that was being used at the time, and really just fell down this beautiful, wonderful rabbit hole, and I've never left. I never left. It's my full-time job now, and I never want to do anything else again.
That's epic that you are full-time crypto. And yeah, a couple of the OG legends, names you were mentioning. I found many of those people early on and got a lot of inspiration, as well as, open arm welcomes for questions and DMs or,
Oh yeah.
things like that. So it's just it was such a amazing experience and so different from any type of, kind of social media that I had not been active in, but sort of, just had a bad taste in my mouth. So I never really did a lot of Facebook or Twittering or anything until I was deep into the NFT space and crypto art space. And it's such a different community to enter than your standard kind of quote unquote social media or online kind of presence. So it's definitely something that I fell in love with and just knew it was the spot for me. And it's taken a few years to kind of find where I fit in and hone some of my skills and passions to be able to push forward on on those feet and just keep going, keep growing.
Yeah, I spent about 10 years doing marketing before I moved into tech. I was doing marketing in sports and book publishing at a time when blogging and Facebook and Twitter, it was all new. So I have a different perspective on social media. I didn't think I was very good at it, and I never really found my community. But I was able to see other people that I worked with and help build their platforms, find these amazing communities. And it took me this long, and I think you're echoing that same sentiment. It took me this long to find my people. And I never want to lose this again, because I never want to lose it, because I mean, it's just amazing. The arms open and that's why I fell into trash art. They were guys like Rob Ness, Max, Jay DeLay, Colin Custom IP, all these guys, Wizard X, you name it. All these people were so willing to let me ask dumb questions. And they weren't judging me, right? And they weren't too cool yet, or ever. They weren't too cool to answer them. It was beautiful.
Totally. Yeah, it's a very special place, and I'm really glad that we got you over here in Lad City. You'll see people throwing up the OVOT, and that stands for Our Vibe, Our Tribe, because similarly, a lot of people that are here with us tonight actually kind of had been interested in the space, kind of struggling, because when you're just learning about it and you're on your own, like you had mentioned, you have questions and you're not sure how people will take it. Amazingly, people are super informative and welcoming, and there is no really bad question. We want people, a great part of this community is spreading that knowledge, trying to give people tools to free themselves financially and creatively. So it's just amazing. And the OVOT here stands for Our Vibe, Our Tribe. And so a lot of people felt like, when they found Lad City, they just, had that feeling that like, oh, these are the kind of people I fit in with. These people have, similar interests. And so we really do have that kind of, tribe. And then as you extend out to, the next communities over, the Token Smarts and the Whales, and, it's very inclusive throughout the space for the most part. I mean, of course, there's always some beef here and there. And if you spend enough time in Clubhouse, you're going to see some crap go down. But in general, it's just a really positive space. So yeah, it's great to have you here in Lad City, and hope you're gonna have a great time and be able to pop in and hang out here and share your art and what you're working with in the future here too. I know that you do have some exciting news coming up. I don't know if you want to start with some of that and then kind of work back, or however you want to roll. I'm down just to hang.
Yeah, let's not bury the lead, right? Let's give the people something interesting that I think is interesting to talk about. So on Monday, I'm launching my new Avatar series. It is not generative. It is an art project, 100 one-of-ones that will be listed at 0.1 Ethereum. And the concept behind the series is, the name of the series is Synthesis, S-I-N, thesis, so synthesis.
Like synthesis, though. Like when I first read that, I was
Yes,
like, oh, synthesis,
that's
which is
correct.
like very interesting way to use the word synthesis.
And it was intentional to use it that way for two reasons. I giggled I giggled a little bit when I was developing this project because um, I'm really focusing on what I've been calling social identity NFTs. So the acronym is SIN, SIN, and at the same time, the series itself is sort of a commentary on. I have a Catholic background, an Italian Catholic background, so really the cardinal sins really came to the forefront for me in this particular project, and I was tying it back to the idea of vanity and pride by using all of these, and myself included, by using avatars to express who we are, and show pride if you're a punk owner or an ape owner, or maybe you're into some other, avatars or bulls, who knows, right? Pickles, you name it, whatever kind of fruits you want. It's out there, and I just thought it was the right time to express that in this project, but it has a little bit of deeper meaning. The project itself is a synthesis, honestly, of three different things that I've been thinking about. The first was sort of the composability of NFTs. Jimmy Eth has been talking a little bit about this, and I really love the concept. So I have my Unofficial Punks project, and I also have this series of studies that I did called Skyscapes. And we were talking a little bit about how we can flex both these generative projects and profile and avatars by sort of putting them together, composing them in a really unique way. So I was playing around with that idea. I was playing around with the idea of doing another Brutalist Mannequin series, this series that really became about my divorce. And then I was also playing around with the idea of what was the third one? It doesn't matter. So I was playing around with these three sort of ideas, and you know what? Let me just pull it up here because I don't want to get this wrong.
Well, while you're looking for that,
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that, of course, we have this crazy tidal wave of, avatar and profile pic kind of generative stuff that's just like every night. It seems like almost one hit. So I actually really like that you're doing 100 one-on-ones that are not generative, and the price point, 0.1, seems really actually quite affordable for people to be able to pick up some of your work. I really love, like, it just brings a smile to my face when I see people that are pricing in the little guy. Like it's really a big deal for me.
Well, it's a callback to my trash art heritage, to be perfectly honest with you. Trash art was cheap, it was fast, it was the idea that we can include as many people as possible, right? That you're welcome in this tribe, in this conversation, you're welcome in this movement. You don't have to buy, at the time would seem like a lot. I think Beeples were going for like $3,000 or something, and which is nothing now. But so even then, it's this callback to the idea of inclusivity and bringing people back into Avatar as art, not Avatar as investment, which is kind of where we went. So just to wrap this up, the three pieces, that other third piece was the vanity piece, right, which was kind of, I had already talked about. So all these three pieces became this culmination, this synthesis of what this project is. And it's really the culmination of my life in crypto art. It's the culmination of my confidence in this space. I used to struggle with being as an introvert in an Italian family where the males were expected to be bravado and walk around with this sort of I'm a tough guy attitude, and I was never that way. But this at the end of the day, this whole project is both the culmination of the work I've done to get here in therapy, and find confidence in myself, and also the culmination of my work in this space, and how I got here today. And so while there's people out there promoting and loud mouthing and showing their deep pockets with these avatars, I could sit here and say I don't need to boast and use someone else's project. I just fucking make my own.
Hell yeah. Love it. Just a phenomenal ethos. And over on the YouTube right now, we have some of those pieces that you have, those previews from the website, and they're just looking epic. It very much gives a feel of like, I don't know, it's a not like dark, but just like loud. It's like there's a contrast in these, the few that I've seen, that is very it really does give a statement, like the way you've got the kind of the blank face and the red like slashes through it. It's very you know, like kind of, it brings up multiple emotions, you know, whereas like, yeah, you could have like a punk that looks cool, it's worth, you know, $500,000 or something. You could have an ape that's worth a bunch of grands and like, you know, might look fun or whatever, but these have a deeper feel. When I look at these, the connection I'm getting is much more than just like oh, cool collectible. You know, I see your, you know, your struggles. I see your, you know, maybe pain or confusion and like different things coming through that really stand out to me.
Yeah, it's, you know, one of the things that I think is important to share about this is there are features, like the faces do have features, which is borrowed from, you know, the generative project idea, but these features are created by negative space. Those slashes that you're seeing are removed pieces. And then the background is what's filling in those spaces for you. But the one with the red, that's two faces mashed on top of each other. And then I'll be doing variations of that as well in the other 100. So, I mean, it's like, what I love about it is it's also the anti-punk, because it's all about the background filling in the space for you, not about what's actually happening on the face. And I kind of, you know, that was also an intentional aspect to this, to be the opposite.
The use of that negative space can be so powerful.
Yes.
And like looking at it now that I was playing, I'm like, oh wow, it's trippy how the depth of those kind of streaks come across visually, now that I know they're actually the background. So it's kind of playing a little mind trip on me too. But like coming from a history myself of, you know, landscape design, photography, film, negative space is hugely important in those things.
Yeah.
So when I first actually ever made like a, you know, a voxel model in like Magic of Voxels, it was such a trip to then be working in 3D and have that negative space again, where I was used to, you know, just working on a computer, you know, in the 2D realm, which is very different. So, you know, I've only done a little bit of playing like that, but it's really interesting to me the way people use that space and how much more rich it can make a piece when you have that in mind.
Totally. And you know, the Brutalist Mannequin series, which is up on YouTube, I see now, there's a whole lot of negative space, and that was also intentional because I wanted a lot of the focus to be on the figures themselves and the action that's happening inside sort of the positive space or the white space, and then the background sort of be this empty space for you to like have your thoughts float and for you to connect with the piece in ways that's comfortable for you. You had talked about like just before, saying how you can feel the things that I'm expressing. One of the things that I love about my art is I don't always necessarily share what the background of the pieces are or why they're meaningful, because I also want people to connect with them on their own terms. I think art is really special that way, in that you can connect with it on your own terms and interpret it in a way that's meaningful for you, or you can also understand and get a glimpse into what the artist was thinking.
Absolutely. It's super special when you can kind of have those two from the
Yeah.
same piece. And the way you have these laid out also makes, I think, for really nice just like eye movement where you can kind of wander around the image a little, which is always fun because it's like exploring more instead of have your eye just brought to one spot, really digging these.
Yeah, well, that's why I use the drastic shadowing on the white figures, right? Your eye tends to be drawn to those figures, but the backgrounds offer so much more. The one that's up on YouTube right now is called, is that Anger? Nah, I don't remember that one. Oh no, Seeing Red Again, that's what it's called. And you can see that there's this white figure who's sort of sitting there, and that's really me, and I'm headless, and I'm floating, and I don't know what to do, and there's this expression of anger that's happening inside of me. And that's what Seeing Red is, trying to invoke in that particular piece. But you're right, the eye is meant to first discover the sad figure and then float and see these little inset images that I've sort of shared, and intentionally not hid but distorted.
Right. Yeah. It gives you a little bit of like more time to find and appreciate things when you have those things that are not necessarily hidden, but kind of stashed. And
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for contrast. This one is just freaking epic.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite that I made in this series. And when I ended the series, or when it ended for me, I was still like, I had said this before, but I felt like my soul was still calling for me to continue working in a similar aesthetic or in this aesthetic. And that's what synthesis or synthesis ended up becoming an evolution of, these figures that played such an important role in my really storytelling of the end of my relationship with my wife.
Very brave to also share that kind of personal parts of your life with your collectors, with your fan base through the art. Not everybody is comfortable opening up that much. Not that necessarily it's comfortable. You're probably pushing yourself through some uncomfortable things to do that, but it's powerful. So I appreciate that as well.
It was a very unconscious experience. Because what I thought I was doing with the series, with the original Brutalist Mannequin series, was exploring my mental health journey. So kind of like looking at my past mental health experience and mental health journey and breakdown through the fourth dimension. So looking backward, but not looking back at it, but not experiencing it. And then a year later, I was putting the website together and began writing some more context for the series and for the art that I've created over the last 2 years. And I realized, like, chronologically, I literally told the story of the end of my marriage with my wife, and I was like fucking blown away by it, because I thought I was doing one thing, and really my subconscious was guiding me into doing another. I was in the middle of healing, at that time. And one of the ways in which I healed was through creating that art.
Yeah, I feel like art, music, even just hanging out in these types of spaces and collaborating, talking, it is like a form of therapy. And it's great to be able to be in these spaces and share together kind of, some of our journey, some of the, of course it's great to just have great times, but it's important that we also, touch on those tougher times. You can't, really appreciate the positive without the negative, and it's all just a part of life and growing and stumbling and getting back up. But it's really great to see those aspects of your life come through your art. I had a question, like, how do you know, or do you, like, when you're working on a series and it's kind of coming to an end, is there sometimes a plan? Like, I imagine maybe with the 100 and the synthesis project, maybe you would decide, okay, I'm going to do 100 of these. But if you're doing, say the Brutalist mannequin, was that just kind of, you worked till you felt like you had, you're able to move on, or does the actual art kind of signal you? Or I'd love to hear a little bit about that, because it's always so hard. Like for me personally, a piece is never done. I could just keep going back to it and working on it, and I'll leave it for a while, and I'm like, oh, I'll come back to that. And it's hard to ever know if something's actually finished or not for me.
Yeah, there's I don't remember who said it, but I always kind of hung on to these words. A good painter learns when to stop painting, right? It's because a painting is never finished, but you could just muddy it if you continue to work on it. But the key is to learn when to stop.
Totally.
And be comfortable with that.
My son told me once, and this was, a few years back, so he was like, 10 or something. And I was showing him a piece that I was working on, and I was like, what do you think? I could do this or that. And he just was like, Dad, I think it's like, I forget the exact wording, but it was basically, it came down to like, with a positive spin, like, you'll probably just mess it up if you keep going. It was like, I think it's great if you keep doing things, you might actually regret adding to that. And so even like from a kid's perspective, they can even catch that. And sometimes we just don't listen to that voice enough, or we second guess ourselves and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely a skill, and sometimes a hard one to just say, okay, I'm calling it, this is getting minted.
Yeah, so I mean, to like plainly answer your question about the series itself, I had originally intended to do 36 Brutalist mannequins. There was a specific reason at the time for the number. I don't remember what it was, but it was related to a combination of a couple different numbers. I think it was maybe her birthday or like the birthday, which was the 27th, and something else. I don't remember. But I had decided on 36. And then while I was working on them, it just got to a point where I felt like it wasn't a joy to do the work anymore. And so I stopped, and I stopped at the number that I have now. And I had every intention to continue on to do the rest of them, but that just never happened. I ended up like getting involved in other projects, or my brain doesn't work linearly. I work on multiple projects at the same time. I have to flip back and forth and be engaged in what I'm doing. So I thought I would come back to the mannequins. I ended up doing that in the synthesis, or the synthesis series. But for that particular project, it ends when it tells me in my body it ends, and that's mostly how it worked out for the synthesis project as well. I struggled with the idea that maybe I could turn those, because there's so many features that I could actually turn it into layered files, write a program, and do 10,000 generative versions. So I had to really think about what I was trying to say with the series and with the pieces. So while I was doing that, thinking about it and letting that sort of struggle in me ruminate and think about what was going to happen next, I was also writing what I called my impact report. So I've been collecting data on myself, and I was putting together to see sort of what I had done over the last 2 years, because I really hadn't taken the time to take my head out of the sand and sort of look at what I did. And that's when this well of confidence started bubbling up in me, when I realized, oh, shit, I helped pioneer not one, not two, but 3 crypto native movements in 2 years. Like, that's pretty fucking cool. And I didn't realize that. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about trash art, and talking about the alt punks, which I confidently claim that I ignited the alt punk market. And if anybody wants to argue with me, go ahead and check out my impact report.
Just posted a link to that impact report. Because I had just actually a little earlier today, I got a chance to go over and check it out. And it's very cool the way you're using and correlating this data to have these scores. And I think very valuable so I don't know, exactly how you came up with this, but I think it could help other people too, to kind of see how they're doing. Like if there was a way where I could go and like plug into, this whatever site and you put in your sales and how many customers you've had and like, whatever, some of your social media stuff and kind of get feedback on that would be pretty incredible.
It would be. And, unfortunately, I don't think that exists for artists. It exists for, projects. That's what OpenSea does. That's what NFT, what's that other one that I don't really, NFT.
I know the one you're talking about.
I don't really get along with it, so I don't pay attention to them. So that, this kind of data doesn't exist for artists. I manually went and did this all myself, except for the survey form, which I recently sent out over a 24-hour period, just to get feedback from my collectors and my friends and all. And that's where the CSAT number which is customer satisfaction number, or the Net Promoter Score, the NPS, all tech business kind of metrics borrowed from my career in working in tech, in customer experience and service design. So I really was curious how I would measure up, at least at a small scale, in that way, because I do have this customer experience background, and it is super important to me to engage with my community and make sure that I'm taking care of my collectors and know who my collectors are, know who my audience is. I wanted to collect this data. And so that's really, I was doing that organically because of my own interest. Writing the report just helps solidify for me at a high level, think like 5,000 foot view, what was happening over the last 2 years for me. And it only helped. I said this, to other people, but I'm bullish on myself.
Oh yeah. That's the most important thing to be bullish on. I've talked about it on a handful of shows, about investing in yourself, whether that's with your time or some finances, or maybe missing out on a little finances from your job, quote unquote, or whatever, to be able to put a little more investment into yourself instead of just working to build other people their financial freedom. So, for me, being around for a few years and finally feeling like it's really starting to kind of pick up, living the dream. I'm working with some great projects, actually earning almost a livable wage. And I think soon it will be from crypto, so it's very exciting and very empowering. And sometimes it can be hard to take that 5,000, foot view of yourself. And like, another thing that I relate to is you were talking about how you work on kind of multiple things back and forthing. I do that as well. And so I'll have like multiple kind of things go. And sometimes, not lately because I don't have the time, but I used to read like multiple books at one time. I'd be like reading like sci-fi over here and like some other like weird history novel over there. And like, that's just how my brain can work. But it is hard for me sometimes to take, to step back from all these different things that, I've got my fingers in, I'm doing this over here and that over there, to really take a step back and look at overall, and then maybe be able to, nudge myself into more of what's working and what's not. That's partially why I was so fascinated by your impact report.
Yeah, it's a lesson that I've taken over the last like 20 years trying to figure out how I can work in this world as an introvert with anxiety and depression. So I had to build all of these like personal tools and understandings for how I can work. And so the idea that like learning how my brain worked helped me become more successful. Learning that I needed to step away, because I would do workshops and I would do presentations at Twitter and at Google. And it would take a lot of time and energy for me to get up to do them. And I would be good and successful at it. But I had to learn to also step away and take the time to recover. So this idea of like zooming in and zooming out and reevaluate and taking time to reevaluate, it's learned over 20 years for me. It's not easy. And it wasn't until actually that I got therapeutic and medicinal help for my anxiety and depression that the tools that I used to use became assets now even more. It wasn't about surviving. It became about it became about growth, really. And this is the first time this year. Let's see. So I've been in it for 2 years. So for the last year and a half, I've been on, or 2 years, I've been in therapy and on meds, and I've seen nothing but growth and confidence coming from me personally and individually. And I think it has everything to do with taking the right, asking for help when I needed it. So it took me 37 years to find out that I needed to ask for help. So I get it. I get, there are people out there that struggle. I struggle too.
Yeah. Well, big props and mad respect for, taking those steps, putting yourself, out of your comfort zone to ask for that help, because sometimes that's almost the hardest step, is taking that like first step, and then using those tools to really grow yourself, instead of just like get better or whatever. You get better, and then what? You want to keep getting better. So to be able to use that and grow from it, and to share that here publicly is just big ups for that, because I think that you can impact other people's lives just by sharing those few statements even.
Yeah, I do. It's part of who I am now. After sharing my mental health journey with family and friends, and having so many people reach out to me privately, and they were like, I saw your story on Facebook. This was 2 years ago. I struggled with it too, with bullying, all this kind of stuff. And people out there are not always comfortable with sharing sharing things like that, right? Like coming out, because if you're broken, right? Society tells us you're broken if you're not a certain way. And my goal is to tell you, you're not fucking broken.
Society is pretty broken.
There are people out there that you can talk to about these things, and so that's why I leave my inbox open. That's why I invite people. My DMs are open. I invite people to reach out to me, and it stays between us. That kind of stuff. Sometimes just having a stranger to say something to is
absolutely. It can be way easier sometimes to reach out to, basically a stranger, and be able to be like, how can I spill my guts here for a little bit? Because it can be much harder to a sibling or close friend, or other family member or spouse. So that's really valuable that you provide that open space for people. I have my Twitter DMs open, and try and do as much as I can, whether it's people asking advice on project ideas or whatever, or just having a bad day. Like, especially in it's interesting because the last, well, I guess 18 months or so were really rough for a lot of people, but fortunately in the kind of NFT and crypto space, we had a lot of opportunity. But at the very onset of the lockdowns, I had just gotten up to California, got locked down, and was wound up being stuck here away from my wife and kids down in Costa for the longest I ever have been. But even just at the beginning of that, paying attention to the news and media and stuff, I got into a pretty funk, pretty deep depression, and there was a couple days where I just didn't even want to get out of bed. I wasn't getting online,
Sure.
wasn't doing anything, and I wound up actually making a Scent post, and this was ways back. I was a little more active over on Scent, and I just kind of made a post that was like, man, I've been so bummed, just kind of explained how bad I was doing. And within like hours, I started getting texts. I started getting, messages back on sent. I even got phone calls from people that were like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, you want to talk, whatever it is, just kind of like trying to cheer me up. And it turned my whole like view around so fast. Like literally like half a day later, I was like, oh my God, this is like, it was such an amazing feeling to have that kind of support from people that, they're not in your, you didn't grow up with them. They're not in your class. They're not a family member or whatnot. They're, we formed these deep, amazing bonds with people all over the world that truly care. And so I just urge people to, talk about it if you're feeling bad. There's people here that we are here to support each other in numerous ways, whether it's supporting your art or supporting, your mental health. It's a great thing that we have in this community, and it made a huge difference for me. And basically after that, I just didn't pay attention to the media at all. And I've stayed pretty good since then.
I haven't watched news in 2 years.
Yep.
I still get news, and I do a lot of my own research. I think that's the thing that most people, in my opinion, this is going to be really biased, so I want to preface it with that. In my opinion, most people who sit in front of the TV and watch TV to get their news are being fed information, and then you're just going out into the world and you're parroting it.
Yeah.
It's, the day that I stopped watching mainstream media news and started forming my own opinions was the day I became...
It's like taking your freedom back. I mean,
yeah, that's exactly the word I was thinking of.
I feel so strongly about it. I mean, nowadays, you're either propaganda for this side or you're propaganda for that side, and both sides basically have the same goals, and it's to take all the money and all the power. So it's like,
yeah, it's not even the sides though, right? It's painted as sides,
right?
But it's really just corporations and people that are sending out these messages that want you to pick a side. Because a divisive country is a controllable country.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, even at least in the United States, there used to be a law against using propaganda on like US soil or whatever. And then I think it was maybe a decade or so ago, maybe 2008 or something.
I think it was in the 1990s, I thought.
Oh, maybe it was even back that long. Well, I know that it was fairly recent, maybe in the last couple decades, where they killed that law.
They did.
Said, it's fine to use propaganda on your people. So it doesn't have to be the truth. It can just be to push an agenda that is going to be, quantitatively positive for those making the agenda, not for the
journalism changed, right?
Yeah.
Journalism became about sensationalizing. It's not even journalism anymore, because journalists really became citizen journalists. These are people who sensationalize the news for entertainment.
Yep.
That's what it became about, unfortunately.
And if you disconnect from that, the world doesn't end. Like nothing gets worse. Everything seems to get better. Still the same things are happening in the world, right? But you don't have to be brought down by it, and you can make more positive change in your local areas. I don't know, do some community gardening or hang out at the farmers market. Like, I don't know, there's so many better things to do, in my opinion, than watch the television.
You get incited to feel angry about things. It's fear. It's what mainstream media does, and it's incitement. But really, I rarely see people who and this is coming from my own personal experience, so I want to preface that. In my personal experience, the people who sit in front of the TV and watch the news rarely do anything else. They have lots of comments and ideas on how to fix the world, but they just go back and watch the news again. I'd like to see, to your point, step away from watching it and do something about it. Think locally.
That's the biggest thing I think where we can make the most impact is, in your area. Yeah, exactly. Start small, start local, just kind of do something positive for yourself, for a neighbor. And it's really rewarding. And then with our community, with this whole, revolution in art and music and taking back our power, both creatively and financially, and creating these amazing bonds with people all over the world, and having this new, metaverse to explore and to build yourself in. That is where we can make, a great positive impact in the kind of digital realm, if you want to equate that to sort of like media, but very different, because we're creating the media, we are creating the content. You're here hanging out at Easy Street with Second Realm and the lads, and this is where our power is, I feel. So yeah, I think it's a really great message to spread to people to, back off a little from that mainstream news where it really is designed to divide you and put you in one camp or another, when the people at the head of those camps, they're shaking hands and smoking cigars and, cheers and drinks, in the back of the club or whatever.
They really are. Yeah, it's sad and pathetic that that smokescreen is so good that we'd rather yell at our friends who don't think like us than think about the people who are sending the message to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's what I love about this space. And while every day, the freedom that we have to create content here gets challenged, you have people like me and Rob Ness and Punk 4156, and others too, continuing to fight the good fight and ensure that there is some level of decentralization or thought process about decentralization, that we don't have to take centralization because that's the way it was in the old world. And it's our right to continue to push that, I think.
Absolutely. And not only our right, I feel that it's somewhat a responsibility too, because if we're here in this space and we're maybe here a little before other people, that to try and spread that message is somewhat a responsibility, because if we don't, who will?
Yeah, the reason why I chose the word right specifically, because I think some people do feel like do feel responsible for these ideals, but they don't know that they can actually do anything about it. And so when I say it's a right, I'm trying to send the message that you have the right to do that. You have the right to express your opinion. And like me getting kicked off of Super Rare because I wanted to mint a remixed Hackatow. Like, it wasn't about the remixed Hackatow. It was about gatekeeping, right?
Yep.
You have a right, but you also have to live with those consequences. And I do every day. What I try to do is I put my money where my mouth is. I believe I left a lot of money on the line by not staying on Super Rare, and getting challenged and challenging them on their terms of service, a centralized platform in a decentralized, culture. So it's your right, and to do that, but you also have to learn to live with the consequences.
Yeah, no, that was a huge move, and again, big respect for that, because yeah, I'm sure you you could have kind of basically just like toe the line and have like big income from over there.
Sure.
It takes a lot more gumption to just stand up for your true self, what you truly believe, and maybe take a hit here and there, but down the line, you can be proud of yourself, and then you can put that into your works, and people will be able to know who you really are, not just that you put up some whatever XYZ piece on this platform, and that's quote unquote big. And it's a very interesting connection between these centralized gated platforms like Super Rare, where maybe, you know, one out of, I don't know what it is, 10,000 or 100,000 or 50,000, whatever it is, you know, very few people are even let in to show and sell their arts there, in a community on the large that's very, very much for decentralization. So it's an interesting dichotomy there. I mean, of course, you've got some you know, platforms that are more open, some that are completely open, you know, OpenSea and Rarible, Hicketnunk and sites like that, which I think are having a much bigger adoption rate than sites.
Oh, you cut out for a second. I didn't hear your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm rural. Sometimes the internet gets a little bit choppy here. I was just saying that it's a very interesting dichotomy between the, you know, decentralized community. Some of the platforms wherein are very gated and centralized,
right.
and then you have the more decentralized parts like, you know, Rarible or OpenSea, where anybody can mint on, and I think those are seeing a lot more growth than your gated, you know, platforms.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts here, but I don't want to run over too much time. So let me.
Well, I mean, do share a little.
Yeah, I'm going to. The first is, if it wasn't clear, I was taking a shot across the bow at people earlier about people who say that they support trash art or are trash artists, and then don't put their money where their mouth is. Nobody specific that I'm calling out. They know who they are, but it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to do it. And I challenge anybody that if you're going to say that you believe in an ethos, then you should also act as if you are believing in that ethos. Full disclosure, though, I did reach out to Super Rare to see if I can get back on the platform, because of course, in order for me to survive in this space, it requires me to make money. And as a business decision, it would make more sense to get back on the platform. They did not. They declined, and I'm okay with that. Perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I wouldn't see anything wrong with going to revisit a situation.
Yeah.
You know, things do change, and so people change. You know, sometimes the whole team might bring on, you know, they're growing their team, I'm sure, because of, you know, all the interest. So maybe there's changes taking place in the ethos there as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you know.
I went right to the top, and the top said no, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. It just affirms. I knew that they were going to say no, but if I got in, that would have been cool too. I probably would have continued to push boundaries there again and get kicked off again.
Right.
So I mean, whatever. But to sort of dive into the platform discussion, I think OpenSea tries to do a really good job of thinking about, like, the Funks issue recently that I wrote an article about, CryptoPunks and copyright. You know, on the Outer Realm blog that I recently wrote an article about. I think OpenSea is trying to do right by the people as best they can, but they are a business that does have investors, and we have to understand that once the VCs come in, there are certain business expectations that they're held to. So they're going to make decisions like complying with DMCA requests. But what I want to point out for people who maybe don't know is companies are not, they'll say it, but they're not legally required to comply with DMCA requests full stop. What they are legally required to comply with DMCA requests for is that they continue to get safe harbor protections. If you comply with the DMCA request, you will get safe harbor protections from liability, right? But they always leave that part of the statement out. Right. So I think it's misleading, and I want to sort of add a little bit more of information for people who are out there. So I see both sides of it. And I see why why OpenSea and Rarible are doing the things that they do. But as somebody who believes full bias here, that copyright law, IP, and trademark law should be abolished because it's about corporate protectionism, I'm going to continue to do me and live with the consequences. I have Disney pieces out there that I hope that they send me DMCA requests for, or try to sue me, whatever, because I will mint the shit out of those legal documents. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Like,
yeah, hell yeah.
I'm hoping for that. So, you know, like once again, I live and breathe the things that I believe, and I want other people in the world. Rob Ness does too. Max does too. You know, there are people out there who do, and then there are people out there who talk and then don't do. And so, shot across the bow at any of those.
Yeah, well, big shout out to Rob Ness.
Yes.
Always loved his work, and he has been the most friendly guy. I mean, we've only had, chats here and there, a few texts and stuff. He actually made a really generous trade. We did, this was maybe about a year ago, a barter for some CBD. I used to work in CBD, and still it's kind of my like side hustle. And we did a trade for an NFT for a couple of different CBD items, and it was just really cool. Yeah, it was a really fun experience, and it was just I love the piece actually. Maybe I'll try and if I can grab it and drop it in the chat. I will.
Yeah, he's the godfather of trash art.
Yeah, and just such a genuine and nice dude. I mean, I'm sure if you were on his naughty list, maybe he could get tough and rough, but that's we should all have that where we stick to our guns, and he really does. So just big shout out to Rob Ness.
Yeah, he's a huge inspiration. Him, Jay DeLay, Colin Custom IP, Max. These are the guys that all helped guide me in my early days in the NFT space, and our ethos aligned. We all have different ideas and opinions, but there's a general ethos about gatekeeping. Then that's what, and somebody telling us what art is and isn't, and that's really the birthplace of trash art. It's like nobody should fucking get. I don't care how big your wallet is, and excuse the language if this is uncomfortable for people. But I'm from New Jersey, so we curse.
All good.
But nobody should fucking tell you what is and isn't art. And if somebody does, I'm going to tell them to go shove it. So.
Yeah, no, I 1000% very strongly feel the same way. If somebody's telling you that what you're creating isn't art, well, they've got a problem. It's not the art you're making.
Right.
So it's ridiculous to try and tell somebody
Yeah.
that, if they're putting in creative, spirit, thought, juice, whatever you want to call it, they're creating art in their style. So it's just infuriating.
It is infuriating. And if you look at Super Rare today, it's full of trash art. It's full of everything that we were doing
totally
at the time and getting derided for and getting called trash. We stole trash art from them. Trash. They were calling us trash, and we just owned it. We didn't make it up. They did, and we just took it and said, you know what? You want to call us trash art? You're damn fucking right we are. And boom, the mimetic movement was born. That's
some power right there. Just use it. It's a great lesson. And the trash art movement is it was incredibly important early on to help form some of the larger I guess you could say arguments and thought debate about royalties and openness and all these things that are very, very deeply tied to decentralization, where you've got the kind of the other side, I guess I would say, really wanting to have more control over what, even what they, would literally tell you you're not making art, which is just ridiculous. But wanting to have, the control over, who gets to share their art, who gets to sell their art, who can even call themselves art, holding the big bag of money. Like it's all this old world ideas that we're getting away from in this space.
Well, that's whenever new technology is created, what humans do is sort of like basically paste old world paradigms on top of it. Like that's why we've got storefronts that look like, Amazons, and shit like that. It'll change. It'll evolve as long as we continue to put the pedal to the metal and hold people responsible for their decisions. And it's important to challenge terms of service, because that's going to be what dictates centralized platforms. A lot of people will say, "Oh, this is my freedom of speech," or "This is about copyright," or no, it has nothing to do with any of those. I mean, it might, philosophically, but a reason that an organization, a centralized platform can do something is because you are responsible to the terms of service for using that platform. So it's important to continue to read those too. I know Angie, she reads TOS all the time. So
it's a biggie to try and dive into them, but it's really shocking sometimes. I mean, the reason I never put my art up on Instagram or Facebook, occasionally I'll put a piece that's already minted on like Twitter, is because basically they take the right to use that. Maybe they don't take the right away from you to also use it, but it's like there's so much take and there's so little give that I just can't bring myself to even like be like, oh, I want to share this with people. And then I just don't feel good about it. So there's very limited ways I feel like I want to share my art, even in the general, social media areas. That's why Scent was kind of so great too, or another aspect of that was really great, because it was, of course, that was pre-Scent 2, which has a much different COS. So, it is important to pay attention to those things, especially when you're an artist and what you create with your passion and imagination is what is essentially going to be paying your bills. You want to retain as much as you can over that, versus having some big brand just basically take it and use it how they see fit.
Yeah, I bounced from Scent when they had the UI shift. For me that was the writing on the wall. I've popped in and out since then, but really I don't use Scent. Could have been fucking amazing, but
oh man, it was. I mean,
it was amazing. Yes,
it was amazing, and for whatever reasons of we're gonna redesign to be like slick, minimal, whatever it was. It pretty much killed the like usefulness and the flow. And so all these people that had these great connections and were even collaborating and helping each other out there couldn't maintain that. And it's just a shame that they weren't able to listen to the community and kind of revert or add a bunch of those functions back in. It felt like in the beginning, the ears were very open and they sort of over time were closed off to getting that feedback and actually working with it. I still have my Scent account. I drop little, posts here and there, like even for this show, I did one. But I don't do a lot of my art and deep interactions there. What was so special about it back in the earlier days. And it's a shame that the Scent 2 just kind of, it really kind of killed it for most of us.
It did, unfortunately, but that's what I love about, like, I'm moving my community from like solely being on Twitter, because I'm seeing writing on the wall there too, where you're getting washed out by louder voices or people with more pull or whatever. So I'm slowly moving people over to Discord, and that is for me, and which you shared the link in the chat here. Thank you. For me, the whole thought process there is direct connection with my audience. Something I did have more of on Twitter, but I don't have that anymore the way that I want to. And now through Discord, I could do that. And I think Scent was, in a way, like adding value in that human connection aspect that ultimately they took away.
Yeah. And I think Discord, I mean, I spend a lot of time on Discord because you can really form deeper connections here. You're able to to have it organized where, like, maybe a handful of people here in Lad City we'll run into each other here and there. But then if you're in one of the specific rooms that has, a certain interest, you're going to have, deeper connection and spend more time with those people. So being able to really organize a Discord well, plus all the, being able to do these chats and screen share and video share and drop the clickable links and all these things, drop tips and token gate, like there's so much possible that it's really kind of, it does seem the best place for community building. Back in the day when I started out, maybe close to 3 years ago, I was on Telegram, and it seemed like really cool at first until I got scammed a few times, and then you realize how much just toxic BS there is, and so there's a couple groups I go and say hi to over there, but really it's Discord for me because I feel like we have more control and can do a wider range of things and be super creative together.
I don't do my Discord isn't that fully fleshed out quite yet. It's got a lot of information, and it looks nice, and there's rooms and things for people to check out. But there's no token gate yet. There's no auto roll, because what I want to do is I have a bunch of different communities: Unofficial Punks, Spud Gang, people who collect the people's potato, and at some point I want specific role, and even podcast guests. I want specific roles to be auto given, and I have a background in engineering, but I have PTSD from doing years of coding, so I try to avoid it. And it's like the least favorite thing is to try and figure out how to add a bot. So I would say just take your time, because it is a lot of work to try and figure out and put together one of these Discord communities. So I would say just kind of little bit by little bit, add this spot there, maybe add a bot here, it's it's a lot, and it's pretty intense. So I think that's awesome that you have the Discord, and that you're kind of just taking the slow road of dialing it in. And I joined just a couple days ago, and I'm excited to hang out over there more with you. Yeah, so what I just to sort of highlight what I do there is I do a few things. So I'll share I guess we use the word alpha now a lot. I'll share alpha news about things, so people on my Discord knew about the series, the synthesis series, long before I published it on Twitter. I shared some sneak previews, even some other ones that haven't been seen yet. I have a VIP collectors group that if you collected my artwork, that I'll give you a collector role, and then that's where I share some alpha stuff.
Super cool. Yeah, it's amazing to be able to to give those extras to the people that are very, that are connected to your art, that are supporting you. To have that two-way street is really cool. And I think Discord also is a great way, like you said, with that collector role, to give, people that are have more skin in the game, that they get that a little earlier. They know what's coming. They can be prepared. I know Josie Bellini has her Discord and her newsletter, and I remember sometimes a while back, because it's been a while, getting that newsletter, when that there's a drop coming, and you can basically get on the list early, and you're like, oh my god, you get super excited. It's really cool to have that connection with the artist. So I'm stoked that you're doing that.
Yeah, little by little. I have a newsletter too, but actually it's text only, and I send it out because I don't want to waste people's time too much. So I send it out very, very rarely, only for special occasions. And it's text only. It'll take 1 to 2 minutes to read, and only one link. Because I want to be mindful of people's, time.
Yeah, there's so much going on these days, and even kind of our, attention spans seem to be getting shorter. So that sounds like the perfect newsletter to me. Every once in a while, you get something when it's important. You know, you can read through it quick and be like, okay, I know what's going on. Versus some big old fancy thing, and you're just like, oh man, do I even have
it's not
time
fluffy
for this?
Yeah,
right.
There's no fluff. It's like
nice.
It's like full on, real quick. You know, what's the quickest way I could say something with the most information? That's, you know, and get you there. Boom. You know,
Perfect.
one call to action. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot. I have a lot of things going on. On Monday, I just want to plug this, but on Monday on Token Smart's Artist Hour, I will be it's basically the launch party for the Synthesis series, and we'll be doing both a preview of the artwork, and also BB Studios, Ben, that's who's hosting it, will be showing the new Pranxyland museum that they've got going there. So it's going to be fun. I'll be giving away one of the new Synthesis pieces. So join and potentially get one of the pieces.
I will definitely be there. I love the Artist Hour. BB Studios is doing a great job with that. So I didn't even know you were going to be on this on the next one. That's great. Yeah, I
haven't plugged in yet because so many things are happening. I'd like to, and you know, I don't want to overwhelm people with too many things that are happening on Twitter. So
yeah, a day or two max is like the farthest I'll talk about something, because it'll just get kind of lost. And then, so yeah, it's easier just to go with like, okay, this is coming like tomorrow or the next day. But that's dope. I will definitely be there for that. Love the show. And, you know, always, some fun giveaways and stuff go down over there too. So that's awesome. What a great pleasure getting to actually hang out and talk with you. Like I'd mentioned at the beginning, you know, we've crossed paths many times here and there, and, you know, been in same spaces, but never really got to just hang out and chill. So this has been an absolute blast. If there's anything else that, you know, we didn't cover that you'd like to just jump on for a few minutes, that's fine. We usually keep them not too much more than an hour. But yeah, this is just, I mean, it flew by like nothing. And I'd love to also invite you, you know, maybe come back on in a couple months or something and kind of check in, see how the Synthesis project went, and, you know, what kind of on the, you know, what might be next down the line.
Yeah, I've always got something going on. So yeah, that would be awesome. I think we've covered a lot of the things that have happened over the last couple weeks. And the only thing I would say to sort of close this out is thanks for having me on. And if anybody is listening and you don't have anybody to talk to about your mental health journey, please DM me. They're open. I'm here for. I'll just listen. I won't even tell you what to do if you don't want. And just hit me up. All right.
Much love. That is hugely appreciated. I'd like to offer the same. I always say my DMs are open, and I think it's really important. And I thank you for touching on the mental health issues today, because it's something that's not always in the front of the mind, but it's something that we should be aware of. And to keep, you know, our fellow tribesmen and friends and community members, you know, with that knowledge that we're here for them. So I really appreciate that. It's been an absolute awesome show. Everybody, make sure you follow. I'm going to drop all the links again right after we close the show here. And there should be basically all the links over in the YouTube, the description as well. So if you're watching over on YouTube, you can get all the links that you've been hearing about today in the description. Really appreciate everybody over there on YouTube. Come join Lad City, LADZ.city, to get a little deeper into the metaverse, you know, get them drops and everything. Plus, there's so much else going on. So, Eric, Second Realm, thank you again. Can't wait to, I'll see you over in the Discord fairly soon. But yeah, can't wait to do another one of these with you. And I'm excited about Artist Hour on Monday.
Thank you. It was so great being here.
All right. I think that's it. What an amazing show. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Our vibe, our tribe.